Okay, Assalamu alaikum everyone. Good evening. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you to those of you who came at 6 o'clock and for your patience. We'll be starting the film at 6:30. So I'm really delighted to welcome you to the screening of Bhashaili today. And Bhashaili is the Bangla word for adrift, so Bhashaili means adrift. Let me introduce myself. I'm Dr. Humera Iqbal. I'm an associate professor at University College London in the UK. And my research is about migration, minority groups. I also work with artists and creative health. And as you're going to see in the film today, some of the topics we cover are very much about these issues. So let me tell you a little bit about Bhashaili. This film is from a much larger 3-year project called Partition of Identity, an exploration of citizenship and belonging in Pakistani Bengalis. And the idea for this project came about in discussions with my research partner, Dr. Anushe Malik, who was based at Lahore University of Management Sciences at the time. So we were very interested in understanding the events of 1971, and especially around migration patterns that happened as a result of 1971 and the events of then. And when we started to look at the research that was available, we found that there was very little about, people's movements and migration patterns. There had been historical work done, but really not enough. So what we decided was that we were going to explore the communities from that period. And we applied for a research grant, and we were successful in this research grant in which we were able to kind of study the community. We were particularly interested in the Pakistani Bengali community, who are featured in the film. And we were interested in exploring their cultural and historical experiences, and also their experiences with citizenship rights. So to give you a little bit of context, and this comes up in the film as well, there are around 3 million Pakistani Bengalis living in Pakistan. Most of them are in Karachi. They live in over 126 settlements in the city. Many of them are involved in fishing and garment work, which are really important parts of the Pakistan economy, so they really contribute to the economy. Many were born in Pakistan, they have children that were born in Pakistan, and they have grandchildren that were born in Pakistan. Many of them are in their 4th generations, or were here from before 1971. However, statelessness and lack of belonging is faced by this community for historic reasons, particularly around 1971 events. Members faced issues with not only obtaining, but renewing CNICs, or computerized national identity cards. So as we know, CNICs, or identity cards, are needed for everything in Pakistan, from education, opening a bank account, getting a job, even registering your death and health. So they're very, very important. So not having access to CNICs or identity cards really has severe implications for this community. And this is going to be picked up in the film. So, and also, just to give you more context, globally, around 15 million people experience statelessness. So this is a big proportion of the global population who face issues around lack of identity. So our 3-year study, it brought together social psychology, history, and the arts. I want to mention Dr. Maria Rashid, who's an amazing research fellow who was on the project together with Anushe, and Aruj Aurangzeb. And so with the project, we conducted many interviews. We interviewed over 85 Pakistani Bengalis from different parts of the community. We did archival work. We looked at the kind of archives in the UK, but also in Pakistan. We looked at media representation. So we did a lot of work around kind of documentation. And then we worked with artists at the Indus Valley School of Arts and Architecture in Karachi to reimagine the stories of the community. So the documentary film today, Bhashaili, we developed in collaboration with award-winning film director Jawad Sharif, who, as you know, is incredibly talented and has made many beautiful films. And this documentary was just one part of the research. I'll talk to you at the panel kind of discussion about why we chose to make a documentary, but it's one part of the research. The other thing we want to bring to your attention, so a lot of the kind of research took place in Macha Colony, which is an informal settlement in Karachi, and home to over nearly 1 million people. And in Macha Colony, we met the most amazing human being, Tahera Hasan, and her organization, Imkaan Welfare, the Imkaan Welfare Organization, doing brilliant work with the community. And Imkaan is a very central partner in this project, and they've been so kind to us and have trusted us. So we're very grateful to Tahera and her team. So I think, just to kind of bring things together, we're doing a lot of writing. We have a children's book coming out next year. We have this film. So we're continuing to work on the topic. And we've also have a new grant which we've been awarded, a welcome grant starting from later this year, which is going to look at the mental health implications of statelessness with young people. So that's going to be happening. And I think just to wrap up, I'd like to say thank you to the Black Hole for hosting us today. We're really grateful. And I think it's time to watch the film now. Okay, Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Thank you so much. We're so happy you came to see our film. I'm just going to start by introducing myself again because I gave an introduction in the beginning, but many of you weren't here. So I'm Dr. Humera Iqbal. I'm an associate professor at University College London in the UK. And together with Dr. Anousheh Malik, who's not here, we're happy to have audience members of all sizes and ages, so you're so welcome. So together with Dr. Anousheh Malik, we had a 3-year project called Partition of Identity, an exploration of belonging in Pakistani Bengalis. And it was a large project. We did lots of interviews with the community, 85 oral history interviews. We looked at archival work. We worked with artists. And of course, we've done academic writing as part of this project. We're writing a book, we've done academic writing, journal articles. There's a number of other things we've been doing, traditional academic outputs. But we also wanted to do something which would allow our research and the work we've been doing to be seen by more people. So that's why we decided to work with Jawad Sharif and create a film in order for you to be able to, and more people to be able to kind of watch the film. And actually the film, it was a really great process making the film, and we're just going to talk together. But just to let you know, the film has been shown at a number of festivals across the world, internationally. We've screened it in the UK, Malaysia. So we're really happy that a lot of people have got to see the film, and happy you've come today. So I don't think we need to introduce, but we will. Would you like to introduce yourself, actually? That's the best way to introduce yourself.
My name is Tahera Hasan, and I'm the founder and director of Imkaan Welfare Organization. and we are the only organization in Pakistan that's been working on issues of statelessness. We have projects all across Karachi. We work in legal aid, we work with mental health, we work with learning and recreation, vocational training, we have a women's community center, we do digital learning. So, I mean, it's everything that we see that there is a gap in. We try to address that. A lot of our work is with young people and youth, as you've seen. And yeah, that's us in a gist.
Wonderful. And Tahera and Imkaan were so helpful and wonderful within our research project. And I think we couldn't have done it without their support, and we're continuing to work with them. The next person probably doesn't need an introduction, but why don't you introduce yourself, award-winning director?
I think this is the introduction. I think introduction to ho hi gaya. So I'm a filmmaker and storyteller, and on this project I have collaborated with academia. That is more important thing which we are going to explore today. So this is it. So I produce multiple documentaries specifically on topics of culture preservation and social change and human rights. Bhashaili is one of the film which I directed along with these wonderful people.
Thank you. Yes. So I guess I think we're going to have a discussion together, but I think the first question I want to ask you both was, what was your experience working on with academics in a research project? So for Jawad, usually you're quite independent, but we were working together on this, and Tahera, like, we came to you as an independent, like, you hadn't heard of us. So what were your concerns and what was your experience like? And I'm interested to hear from both of you.
No, I mean, this is something that I've reiterated so many times. I think the first time that I heard from Humera, she sent me an email. And because I've been working so closely with the community for a long period of time, it's been over a decade. So I'm very, other than it being work, I'm very emotionally vested with the people that I work with, and especially with the young people I work with. So I was very fearful. I'm very skeptical about documentary filmmakers, and I was a bit worried that, okay, these guys are going to come and they'll take the stories and they're not going to care about the damage that can potentially be done when you start telling these kind of stories, and what are the things that we need to do to protect, people that we're working with. And I think, I sat on Humera's email for a very long time. I didn't respond to it because, I just shelved it. I was like, okay, this hasn't come and I don't need to deal with this, because if I need to deal with this, I'll have to take a decision. And then over a period of time, we communicated, and I put my concerns across. And I think this process has been really, really fantastic, because at every step of the way, I think the primary thing was the ethical concerns around the film, around your subjects, around people that we're working with. And I think maybe we've been overly cautious, I think, along the way, especially Jawad and Humera and the rest of their team, have been very, very cautious dealing with the subject. And I think that's what makes it a safe space for us. So it's been very interesting, and it's been very fruitful, because we've been able to put out stories through the lens of the people themselves. Through their own language, through their own culture, because if it's not just exploring citizenship and identity, citizenship, identity is definitely looking at it as an overarching culture about what lives are like and what the impact of these challenges are to them. So the process for us has been really, really good, and that's why we are hoping that we will continue working together with different things for the populations that we serve.
I think this is the great conclusion. Tahera, you like, we are hoping to working together, because most of the time what happens specifically when it comes to filmmakers or storytellers, I mean, anyone like with any community or the people or, the creative people or the academia we work with, and most of the time, like, it's a very love-hate relationship. And specifically, I mean, when it comes to the creative decisions. So it's very difficult I remember initially when we were having discussions, and I was not sure because I remember initially when Humera shared all the data, and specifically those anonymous 85 interviews, and I have to gone through like all of the data to listen all the interviews, and she kept following up, Jawad, वो आपने interview सुन ली हैं सब, and those are like
1 second,
and this
you've
is like
forgotten something. I selected some and gave them to you.
So 2 hours interviews, and and you have to then you have to decide from audio interviews which subject you are going to take, or which family you are going to film. So it was a very difficult interview because every I would say like every community member have a very different story, and it was very challenging to choose just very few people. And we as storytellers, we were like के यार ये गाता है तो इसको भी होना चाहिए, इससे भी इमोशनल एंगल आ सकता है, एंड हाउ मच एक्सेस वी हैव. बट eventually we came to these 5 people, specifically Shahid story, this Munna Bhai, he's a very interesting character, to bring their character out of them and to film them. And eventually Tahera, she was not the protagonist, or she was not part of the film, but eventually she became part of the narrative as well. So I think that whole process was very, very interesting, and for me it was a learning process as well, because most of the time what we do, like we have to do research on our part. The another project which I am doing with National Geographic since last 3 years on Mohanas, so like we have to do a lot of research, and we don't find collaborators here. But in this case, because of Humera, Maria, Anushe, and everyone, so there was already, they have done so much research, and they have built that trust with the community. So it was very, I think for us, like it was much easier to gel into the community and to film their souls and their hearts. Thank you.
We had done about 2 years of research before we came to Jawad. And I just wanted to tell you that actually we did oral history interviews. So these are like life history interviews. And we interviewed people of different ages. We interviewed like people who told us about their journeys coming to Pakistan. We interviewed their children, and so many different accounts. We interviewed elite people as well. That's a whole other story. We chose not to include them, but very interesting. We interviewed fishermen, garment workers. We couldn't put everything in the film, obviously. But this is going to be an anonymous archive available to people to access if you're interested in accessing it. Of course, we're protecting the community, so it's anonymous, but we will, we're going to be releasing it for people to access. Coming back to the film, we talked a lot about Sonia and Anvara and children. And should we include children or not? I think, because like, I always worry about ethics and children's rights. So why do you think it was important to put children in? And there's different types of children. There's Sonia and Anvara on the one hand, and then you have the young boy who was saying that he was 15 years old when he first started taking Grish meth. And, for that, 2 things, for that boy to be saying that and knowing all of this, and then for Sonia and Anvara to be talking about bay farms. Like, why do you think it is important to include children, and what would you say to people about young people?
As far as young people are concerned, obviously you worry about what may happen in terms of their vulnerability if you put them out in the public sphere. So with Sonia and Anvara, I think it was simpler because they are already in the public sphere. By the sheer fact that they are gymnasts, they've been competing, a lot of the media coverage that we have got over the years, they have been in the forefront of bringing forth the issue of identity and citizenship through their story, right? So it's a story that is about young people. It's not a political issue if you put it across through their lens, right? It is just about these 2 girls and many others like them that don't have access to education, that don't have access to rights. So I think in their case, it was really, really important to put them forward, and they were ready to be in that position and have been in that position for the last many, many years. I think we've been working with them. They've been with us since they were 4, 5 years old. Now they're 16, 17 years old. And a lot of time, when we started working in the beginning, I used to do the television interviews. I used to do the, wherever there was a public space that we needed to speak in, I used to be in the forefront. And very slowly, I shifted that because it is their story, it is their life. And for any third person to be advocating for them endlessly doesn't make sense. So it has to be people who are impacted, who have lived experience, who are going through something themselves to bring forward their challenges. And I think young people is a story. I mean, Sonia Anwara's story is a story that everybody needs to hear. I mean, I'd just like to add that, there has been some development as far as Sonia is concerned. We might be able to get her passport really soon, so that's one thing that has happened. We've gone about it in a very strange way because her father had identity, so that we've gone that route. And the other thing is, which I think was a great win for us symbolically, is that the Pakistan Army has a gymnastics team. And due to the fact that she was so phenomenal, the Pakistan Army has picked her for their team as one of the team members. So it's not just about her being picked for a team. It's about the fact that the Pakistani Army team has an ethnic Pakistani Bengali in their team. So for us and for the community, that's been something that's been extremely powerful, because it means that other children might get opportunities too. So, and as far as, the drug addiction is concerned, I think, that we work with mental health and we've been dealing with drug addiction and people that, we've been working on prevention also. And it's very difficult to work on prevention because every home has a drug addict. And I mean, you'd be really surprised to hear that accessing a rehabilitation center requires an identity card. So people who want to go into recovery, who want to heal, who want to maybe look at other ways of life, cannot do it because of the lack of identity. So that's, I think, because of that part of it, I think it's important that those stories are told.
Thank you so much. I think I'm going to ask Jawad a kind of question around, and then maybe one other question, then we'll take audience questions. So, Jawad, I think my favorite line from the whole film is when Nazrul Islam, who's father of Sonia Anwara, he says, the number of people you see here in front of you in Macha Colony, there's double the number at sea. I find that so, beautiful, and imagining like them on the sea in the launch, the boats, it's a very tough life in the sea. So what was it like? I loved the beautiful shots you took around the sea. I was wondering, I wanted to ask you, I mean, because I was with you, but sometimes I wasn't with you, and your team, like, we have to acknowledge, actually, your team is here too. So what were the challenges for you filming in Musa Colony, Macha Colony, and some of the other, well, they were the two main places that we focused on in the film. And also like Ibrahim Hedri, and like, what were the challenges that you faced?
I think when you are passionate about project, then you forget challenges. But of course, there were like multiple challenges, and I think the first challenge was because we had like multiple spells of the shoot, and somehow you chose to have this shoot in heat waves. So during heat waves, what happens, because we have to record audio or vocals and we have to switch off the fans. So it was very difficult for everyone around us. The second thing was we were not too open because it was a very minimal, it's a very, low key. We tried to be low key, specifically when it comes to Manchar or in the Musa colony, because there were multiple security issues as well. And everyone used to tell us, I mean, यार मंचर में शूट कर रहे हो, कराची में आपको पता है जितने फ़ोन चोरी होते हैं, जो स्नैचिंग होती हैं, मंचर से लोग आते हैं और वो चोरी करके ले जाते हैं. That is another, I mean, so we can discuss more about this. So the thing is, so that was the another issue, like security issue, but we have to take those shots. We have to bring like what is their lifestyle, how community is living, what is like their day-to-day life, so that was the another thing. And we kept filming during, I mean, even in the streets as well, even for the drug people, when we were around like those people. And I remember someone came, bhai apna camera chupao. So, you know, these kind of things. And I really want to acknowledge my team, my crew here. Mushtaq is here. And Zahid, Ramesh, Asif is not here as well. आप खड़े हो जाए यार, हम आपको फिल्म इज नॉट जो है वो वन जॉब. सो नजा इज हेयर एज वेल. शी इज, ये हमें एक अच्छी सी रील बना के देंगी अभी. So I mean, so all of them, Kashmala was the part of the project specifically when it comes to post production and editing and building narrative. So it was not possible without them, क्योंकि उस जगह पे उस तरह से फिल्म करना. So that was one of the challenge. The other thing is, I think somehow luckily we have built that trust with the community. और जो नज़रुल इस्लाम के साथ, you know, so I had a very different kind of relationship. Even when in the last dialogue, when we were sitting in the car and I was just, you know, I was just being sarcastic with him कि अगर शनाख्ती कार्ड ना मिला और पाकिस्तान की आपको शनाख्त ना मिली और आप इस दुनिया से चले गए. एंड ही केम अप विद सच अ, हम कौन सा शनाख्त लेके आया था. So those are, I mean, somehow you build those connection with the community. And I just want to mention here, like the first screening we had, it was with all of these community members. Hamari Indus Valley School mein we had this screening with all these community members, and all of them were I mean present there. And when they have seen themselves on a big screen first time, so it was a very emotional moment for them, and it was a very emotional moment for us as well. And when they, जिस तरह वो नज़रुल इस्लाम ने ख़ुद को देखा, मुन्ना भाई ने ख़ुद को देखा, और they were coming back to us and giving us hugs कि भाई हम तो हीरो बन गए अपनी कहानी के अंदर. So those were such a beautiful moments. Yeah.
I have a lot of respect for Nazrul Islam because, you know, we know, like, he's so encouraging. I mean, you will say of his daughters to do gymnastics, you know, and just so, like, championing their education. And so I really, and on top of that, I'm, you know, this community, there's not one Pakistani Bengali. As I said, we've interviewed so many, but in Machar colony in particular, like, literally you've seen the poverty, but still, please come and eat with us. We ate so much delicious fish, like amazing food, and spent so much time. I think we should open up to the audience, but the last thing I want to ask you, Tahera, is just because we have an amazing lawyer here, are there, just legally, this issue, I mean, what are the key things that if we want people to take away, are there particular issues that, or kind of clauses or things that people need to know about that they should know about?
I mean, I won't get into the legal nitty-gritties of it, but the one, you know, important thing for us to all understand is that there is a framework, legal framework that exists currently, and if we apply the law as it exists today, 90% of the problem would be solved. I think that is something we need to focus on, that the implementation of existing laws are really, really important. I'll give you an example. It is not that we have not had success, you know, doing advocacy with the state. I think the implementation of the one-parent policy was a huge success for us, where all children that have one parent with an identity card will get their bay forms and their documents. We got stuck with the passport issue then after that. But that is symbolic of the gap in our policies, right? So you give citizenship to somebody has a citizenship number, but they can't get a travel document. So therein lies the implementation gap, right? So these things need to fall into place. Education, I think, is a really, really important part of it. We have children who want to study but can't. We have people who have, because the landscape is not black and white. It's not you have identity and you don't. It is that there are layers of gray to the situation. You could have had identity, it could be blocked, it could be cancelled, you could be in some kind of a no man's land with it. There are young people who have studied up to university level just by sheer manipulation of the system. So I might have a master's degree, but I don't have the degree. So whereas I have done my master's and I have the qualification, when I go for a job, I don't have the degree because I'm not entitled to it. There are doctors that have come out of the Bengali community that have been on their house job and their identity has been blocked. And that means that everything that they work towards has come to an end. So there are things like this that I think we need to be looking at from the human rights lens and from the lens of the fact that we have laws that are actually really, really good. I mean, I don't think we need more legislation. We just need implementation of what we have.
Yeah, that's really well said. And just to say, we have a paper, because I'm an academic, we've written a paper, it's going to be published very soon, around experiences in the citizenship office, in the NADRA office, and the community sharing with us how they felt and what their treatment, I guess, because it really is, a lot of it is tied to discrimination. And our wider project looks at the history as well and the story behind it. So if anyone's interested, please, I can share details of the project and the research with you. But
Can I come in on the issues with Nadra? You know, I think the important thing to understand is that the xenophobia is very deep-rooted. Yeah. It is not necessarily always state-propagated. There are a lot of times that people suffer because of the bias that one person may have who you go to. So I can go in the morning and have somebody who's discriminatory and go in the evening and have somebody who's there to facilitate me. So I would not put it as a black and white, oh, this is, it's all state discrimination. I think that there's different layers of things happening here. And a lot of it is what we carry from 1971 and the perception of the Pakistani Bengali in the eyes of even the frontline workers. So we've had a lot of good success with working with the state on this.
I mean, we argue it predates 71 because it's even like in the British colonial time. I mean, the way that particular ethnic races were like, kind of described, and which groups would be allowed access to fighting the military, how ethnic Bengalis were kind of described and treated. So it is really deep rooted and historical. But I think we should really open up
talking to each other.
Yeah. We could talk for hours. So it would be really nice to take some questions if anyone has any questions. So yeah, how do we do this? Oh.
First of all, my tribute to you people for making such a wonderful documentary. It was a perfect piece of art. And my question is to Tahera Hasan Saiba. Actually, you did a great job by establishing a center for the children to get training of gymnastic and other games. Did you find any difficulty in convincing the parents of the community to bring their children to that center?
Thank you for that question. I'm often asked this line of questioning that, do you face any challenges? And I'm like, no. Did you have any complications? I'm like, no, I didn't. I actually didn't. I think I've just been really, really fortunate. I think that we've been working there. I mean, the gymnastics team, we started working with them about 10 years ago. We were already working in the community for about 3 years when we started. And we've only had support. I think it's also the communication that we have with them. It's the relationship building. It's not been just about going in and doing, whatever we were doing. We started with a primary healthcare unit. We were like, okay, there's so many kids roaming around, let's do something. And we started with Khel at that point. Khel has evolved. There was no plan of it being ever having any kind of informal education. It's the parents who said, oh, why are you not teaching our children how to read and write? So we added that. There was slight bit of pushback from certain elements within the community, but the parents were on our side. And I think the impact of these girls coming back to one of the largest slums in Karachi, winning medals as a national player, I think that's huge. So that jo reservation the bhi, they were laid to rest after that. And even currently we have the next generation of gymnasts being trained with us. We also do table tennis. We have a hearing impaired team of young girls that play table tennis with us and recently played in the since special games and won medals there. So there's, sports, I think, is an extremely powerful way of getting people together, and it works on development also. So thank you.
I mean, there's even digital. I mean, you could talk about Imkaan and the work they do for ages. Digital literacy. There's an amazing group of young people who have come through and now are leaders in their community. So it's really excellent, amazing work. So another question, I think, yeah.
Yeah,
And then we have one here.
So first of all, I will say about the documentary. It was, I can say in all these audience, it was very interested to me, because I'll say about myself something, that I am a journalist and human rights activist. I am born in Rawalpindi, but unfortunately I'm a refugee. Like stateless, we can say. Today or tomorrow the government is going to deport us to Afghanistan. We can see this in media. My question is that do those people in Karachi have a fear like one day they will be also deported to Bangladesh or not?
There is no fear of deportation because the population is stateless, right? So we were one country, it was broken up, and so they didn't come from Bangladesh. So there's no way that they can be deported to Bangladesh. So that fear is not there, but the existence on a day-to-day basis and the lack of acknowledgement and belonging, that exists. So you are deprived of, like we said, education, being able to own property, doing your business. There's exploitation due to lack of identity in the workplace. So there's different layers of things that come up, but deportation is not a fear.
Yeah, thank you so much for the talk and the documentary as well. So my question is about, Tahera mentioned that the discrimination, while it's at the state level, it's also at the societal level, and there is that fault line. But I would want to understand that in Karachi, for example, in my understanding, these fault lines between ethnic groups have like historical, political, economic sort of ramifications as well, right? So the Pashtuns, they have stakes in transport and other, and so that's a fault line, right? I want to understand the fault line there is between, for example, like your Muhajirs, your Urdu-speaking community, and the Bengalis. What is the kind of narrative propagated against them? Because these are not people who came from Bangladesh; they were here and they're Muslim and all of that. So what is actually the narrative there? Thank you.
You want me to say something that's going to get me over?
You can talk about the Shigri reform.
No, it's you can talk about the Shigri reform. No, it's not about, it's not, it is the xenophobia, like I said, is deep-rooted. Obviously, it is a political issue. Every issue is a political issue, right? Without going into the details of what the politics is. But it is about belonging. It is about voting rights. It is about how, the city is developed. And we are a melting pot. We do have all kinds of ethnicities in Karachi at the moment. And there is discrimination against everybody in some form or the other. It's not just one ethnicity that has discrimination, right? It depends on who you're talking to. So, and it's not related to any economic gain either. So, I think that's safe enough, nahi? Yeah. I'll talk to you afterwards.
अस्सलाम वालेकुम। मैं रिटायर्ड प्रोफेसर और प्रिंसिपल हूँ फेडरल कॉलेज इस्लामाबाद का। और दूसरी बात यह है कि 1948 से लेकर 71 तक मैं ढाके में रहा हूँ, वहीं मैंने तालीम हासिल की है। तो मैं गालिबन हुमैरा इकबाल साहब आप हैं जी, जिनका मैं शुक्रगुजार हूँ कि लंदन से आकर यहाँ इन्होंने कम्युनिटी के लिए काम किया। इसी तरह एक साहिबा मुल्तान की हैं जो लंदन में रहती हैं, उन्होंने भी 1 घंटे की डॉक्यूमेंट्री बनाई है, नाम शायद पता होगा आपको, स्लॉटर हाउस, कि किस तरह इस पाकिस्तान में पाकिस्तानियों को घेर घेर के मारा गया स्लॉटर हाउस में ले जाकर। तो मैं ज़रा देर से आया, तो अगर इस डॉक्यूमेंट्री में कोई तारीख, कोई ईयर वगैरह है, अगर नहीं है तो उसे ऐड कर लें। तो काविश तो आपकी बहुत अच्छी है, और जो मसले हैं वो तो 5 मिनट का काम है, नेशनल असम्बली या सूबाई असम्बली इसको पास कर दे, کہ یہ جو لوگ ہیں وہ کوئی بارڈر کراس کر کے یا پیراشوٹ سے تو نہیں آئے, اسی ملک میں تھے, اور ابھی آپ افغانستان سے لوگوں کو واپس بھیج رہے ہیں. یہ بھی غلط ہے. جو یہاں پیدا ہو گیا, امریکہ میں جا کر, انگلینڈ میں جا کر جو بچہ پیدا ہوتا وہ تو نیشنلٹی حاصل کر لیتا, اور ہمارے ہاں جو بچہ پیدا ہوتا اس کا باپ بھی پیدا یہاں ہوا ہے, تو اس کو بھی آپ ماننے کو تیار نہیں. تو ہماری ایک دوغلی پالیسی ہے. جیسے کہ آپ نے ڈاکومنٹری بتایا کہ جو 161 سیٹ والے کو پاور نہیں ملی اور 81 والوں کو مل گئی. اگر وہ شیخ مجیب کو پاور دے دیتے تو بنگلہ دیش کبھی الگ نہیں ہوتا. آخر انہوں نے شیخ مجیب کو مار ہی دیا نا, پھر بھی مار دیتے وہ لوگ. تو یہ تمام چیز جو ہے وہ اتنی طاہرہ صاحب اتنی محنت کر رہی ہیں, تو اس کو سیاسی طور پر بٹھائیں, نیشنل اسمبلی میں لے جائیں, صوبہ اسمبلی میں لے جائیں. اور میں جواد شریف صاحب کو مبارکباد دیتا ہوں کہ آپ کو تو کوئی پاکستان میں اچھی فلمیں بنانا چاہیے. ایز اے ڈائریکٹر ایکسیلنٹ, کوئی اس میں کمی نہیں ہے. جو ہمارا سنیما ہال بدحالی کا شکار ہے, تو آپ جیسے لوگوں کی ہمیں ضرورت ہے. اور دوسری, میڈم طاہرہ حسن سے میں نے سیکھا کہ جنہوں نے وہ اسپورٹس انٹروڈیوس کیا جس پہ کوئی پیسہ خرچ نہیں ہے. ایک بار آپ نے 2-4 چیزیں لگا دی تو وہ 20 سال تک وہ بھی استعمال ہو سکتا ہے. ٹیبل ٹینس 2 لگا دیا تو وہ بھی استعمال ہو سکتا ہے.
میں آپ کو بتاؤں, یہ سوال بہت پوچھا جاتا ہے کہ جمناسٹکس کیوں, رائٹ, وائی. آئی مین پاکستان میں تو جمناسٹکس ایسی اتنی ہوتی بھی نہیں ہے, اور اس کی ایک بالکل چھوٹی سی سمپل سی وجہ تھی کہ جو اونلی کوچ دیٹ واز ولنگ ٹو کم ود ان دا کمیونٹی واز دا جمناسٹکس کوچ.
تو
So that's why we started with gymnastics.
میں تو اب میں ڈائریکٹر کالجز میں رہا ہوں, تو میں تو, اور ایجوکیٹ سیکریٹری میرا شاگرد بھی رہا ہے وانی, اس سے میں کہوں گا کہ بھائی اسلام آباد کے کالجز میں کم از کم بغیر خرچ کے جو جمناسٹک ہے اور ٹیبل ٹینس ہے یہ تو انٹروڈیوس کر دیں. تو ایک بار پھر میں آپ سب کو, سوال تو کوئی نہیں ہے, میں آپ کو مبارکباد دیتا ہوں کہ اس کاوش کا. تو کیا یہ فلم بنائی ہے پاکستان کے کسی ٹی وی چینل پہ دکھائی جا سکتی ہے؟ میرا سوال آپ سے یہ ہے.
آپ بتائیں. مشکل ہے.
اصل میں ٹاپک اس طرح کا, لیکن پھر بھی آئی فیل کہ شاید فلم کی سول نکل جائے گی تو پھر دکھائی جا سکتی.
No, but actually ہم نے like consciously decision لیا کہ you know community اپنے بارے میں like بتائیں گے, وہ اپنی history بتائیں گے. You know ہم نے like you know we didn't have a voice over to explain the history. This is ان کی اپنی you know like kind of a perception of history, and so it's their voices. And the other thing is well, I forgot the other thing, it will come back to me. But yes, so it is the community's own voice, I think.
ایک بات یہ ہے,
سر ریکارڈنگ نہیں ہوگی سر.
اچھا, میرا سوال یہ تھا کہ خدا نخواستہ اگر ہمارا اس پاکستان میں کوئی ایک حصہ الگ ہو جاتا ہے تو کیا اوور نائٹ وہ پاکستانی نہیں رہیں گے؟ بھائی بنگالیز جو الیکشن لڑا, میں تو ادھر ہی تھا, تو ود ان پاکستان الیکشن لڑا نا, پاکستان باہر تو نہیں لڑا. تمام پاکستانیوں نے پاکستان کا جو قانون تھا, آئین تھا, اس کے اندر انہوں نے ووٹ ڈالا. تو اب میں کہتا ہوں کہ کیا اگر شیخ مجیب 2 کروڑ بنگالیوں کو بھیجتا ویسٹ پاکستان, تو آپ انہیں کہتے کہ یہ نہیں آ سکتے. یہ اگر آج 10 لاکھ پٹھان بھائی ہمارے کراچی چلے جائیں تو کیا وہ آپ کہیں گے کہ جی پٹھان نہ کھپن؟ ایسا نہیں ہوتا, یہ قانون میں ہے. ہمارا ہر شہری ملک کے کسی حصے میں جا کر رہ سکتا ہے, کسی گاؤں میں جا سکتا ہے. تو آپ جو فنڈامنٹل چیزیں ہیں اس کو ہم اگر درست کر لیں, 3 منٹ کا بیان دے دے وزیر اعظم اور اسمبلی, تو آپ تمام مسئلے سالو ہیں, لیکن ہم کرنا نہیں چاہتے.
آئی تھنک یہ سوال آپ سے نہیں تھا.
سوال تو کسی سے نہیں ہے, سب جواب دینے بیٹھے ہیں. سوال تو جو اوپر بیٹھے ہیں کتنا رہتا ہے ان سے.
I just wanted to also thank all of you. This was so incredible. In every part of it, I have 100 questions, but I'll choose one. In the middle of I think the thing that really hurt was the girl saying she couldn't take her 9th grade exam. I'm a high school teacher, and that's really just cruelty to lock people out. But my question was, the lady who was the lawyer in the documentary, she said कि community एक जगह इकट्ठी नहीं होती और एक united उस पे नहीं आती. And you've done 80 interviews, and some people present them more themselves as spokespeople of the community, but maybe you would have had to decide whether they are really to be seen as spokespeople or not. And I wondered if you have encountered were there people that you chose not to include?
You mean in the film or in the...
In the documentary?
So Farzana was a Pakistani Bengali lawyer. I feel like her statement was unfair because, this is a group that has been discriminated against. So it's not their responsibility to stand up and fight. One. Second of all, there's no one Pakistani Bengali, right? There's so many different types, and they have different issues. As Tahera said before, this is not a black and white issue. We're not saying 3 million people are stateless. What we're saying is that they face discrimination to different degrees. The elite Pakistani Bengalis we interviewed, they had very different stories to tell. Okay, so it's not so simple to say, one person needs to stand up. But of course, there's different community leaders doing different things. Like Munna Bhai, for example, he brings his community together. We have so many young people from the community who are encouraging other young people. So, I think her statement is a little bit unfair, but it's her, perspective.
No, I think it's also important to understand that if the perception is that there should be leaders coming out of this community, right? They can't come out of the community. It is very difficult for leaders to become quality leaders to be coming out of the community. There is complete lack of education. There is lack of opportunity. There is the challenges of everyday life. You have to earn a livelihood. There's poverty. To expect high-class leaders to be coming out of this is really not, it's not fair. So I think bringing people I can understand Farzana's point, but bringing people to that level where the engagement can be of a nature that can bring about change, it doesn't happen like that. It's far more complex.
And I just want to add one thing. So Macha Colony, there's 126 settlements or more. Macha Colony, Musa Colony, some. There are, Macha, compared to Macha Colony, Tesser Town, and some of the others, are even more, you can't even imagine the level of poverty there. So it's very different. And one thing that's very interesting, it doesn't come out in the film, is obviously these areas, some of them have faced displacement, the communities. So when the Liari Highway was built, communities were displaced. And also, they're very marginalized. So for example, in Macha Colony, it's right beside the sea. So there's the jungle, the mangrove forests, and there's no space. So they're cutting down the forest and they're living there in really difficult conditions. Now, so you have a marginalized community living in areas with climate challenges. Jawad, you do so much work on climate. We couldn't put everything in the film, but hopefully it will come in our writing and in other work and in the next project.
Even though you're showing poverty, I think it's really, really inspiring that you showed hope and you showed happy people with happy lives, and that this is not by any means a sob story. It's a tragedy how these people are being treated, but you didn't show them as any less than any of us, and that came across in the way it was filmed and the way everyone spoke. So thank you for bringing this story to us.
Thank you for saying that. It's always been the case that when we're talking about the community or the children, I'm very anti-negative images, sad images being used. Because when you're working, especially with children, and you're working on dignity and you're working on confidence, to be showing something that is, showing them as lesser beings defeats the purpose of the work that you're doing. So I think that's been something that we've been very, very cognizant of.
Yeah,
I think I just want to add here. So generally, so most of my films are very tragic. With open endings, like very tragic story. I don't know. I am not that tragic in my life, but yeah. So in this case, I think all credit goes to Tahera because she is the hope. She is there. She brought that. So
that's a bit much, Jawad. That's a bit much. But yeah, we try.
Not that much.
Thank you.
My question is to Tahera ma'am. You said you've been working for a decade with these people and you're emotionally invested in them. So why were you skeptical of these directors coming to make these documentaries? Wouldn't it be better if more people knew about these issues and it would be a lot harder for the government to ignore them?
There are documentaries and then there are documentaries, right? What happens is, I mean, if you look across the board, documentary filmmakers are known to be, you know, really gung-ho about what they're getting into. They need to do it. They don't care about, you know, I'm not saying all of them don't care about, but that's generally the perception. So my fear is, and there's a lot of, when you're working on ground, there's a lot of sensitivities and sensibilities that you're aware of that somebody coming in to shoot for a month will not be aware of. So there might be something that the documentary filmmaker puts in there, which they think is completely harmless, which somebody like me who's sitting there and has been working there will know that, no, this is really flammable or this is really damaging. So it is about how you're telling the story. I think, I mean, you can also add to that.
Yeah, I will add to it. I think it's not Tahera, it's us. We documentary filmmakers and storytellers. You know what happens most of the time, like we have to film any story, any documentary, and specifically now in this craziness and in this bombardment of vlogging and, you know, on this race of metrics and views and everything, you know. So we just get into the community, we parachute in, we exploit, you know, their narrative, and we show them in such a way where our only objective is to, you know, to be more sensational. So this is the reason. I mean, so the thing is, like, we will go there for few days or maybe couple of months, but Imkaan is there for years, you know, so they are there, they know that community, you know, and the damage we do to their narrative and the community. So it's very important. So we as filmmakers, as storytellers, as researchers, you know, we have to sensitize ourselves first. You know, that is very important. And this is what I see. I mean, generally, I have a lot of sessions with the young filmmakers or storytellers and vloggers. So this is what I say. I mean, you have to build that trust with the community, and you have to broad that narrative. I mean, which eventually, I mean, does justice to whatever, I mean, they want to say. And we have to be very careful about cultural sensitivities as well, you know. I keep working with communities. Right now I am working with an indigenous community, and it took me about like more than an year to just build that trust. What they say, they live in boat houses. They say, like, there are these filmmakers or these vloggers, they come and, I mean, with big cameras, and they shoot our young girls in, I mean, they make like a weird kind of thumbnails, and we have seen on YouTube, and, you know, so the whole trust is gone. So this is not Tahera, or this is not the organizations, this is us, and we have to be careful whenever it comes to, you know, these kind of stories.
Yeah, and can I just add a tiny thing more? So this is a filmmaker, kind of lawyer, but as a social scientist, I'm a researcher, so we have codes of conduct and ethics that we have to abide by. So, you know, there's a huge long process to get ethics. When you work with communities that are marginalized and with children, we have more ethics. So I remember having so many discussions with Jawad about ethics and consent forms, and also we spoke for a long time with the people in the film. We showed them the film. We showed Tahera the film. We didn't let anything go out without their approval. So, and we showed it to the community before anyone. So ethics are very, very important in research. And, you know, you can, in the UK, like, well, here too, but you can be in deep trouble. And it's good. It's very good.
I love the way you said, that's a filmmaker, this is a lawyer.
but
you know, we researchers
academics.
have ethics, right?
We
researchers have ethics, especially in the UK.
Right? It takes like months to get... No, actually, the Pakistan ethics board process is really tough as well. For the next project, we have to have a chat about that. It's a long process. But anyway, do we have maybe one last question? Because I can see that...
One question.
Oh, maybe could we give someone who's not... And we can talk afterwards for each... Yes.
Hi, I'm Wagma Feroz from Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. My question is to Jawad, because I'm also a Choti Moti documentary filmmaker. So what was your distribution plan? Like, have you collaborated with the sarkari idare who are responsible or जो decision making process में involved है.
Thank you, Wakhma. First of all, you are not choti moti. She's a very good filmmaker, and she has worked on very sensitive subjects as well. And thank you for doing this. Specifically, when it comes to distribution of topics like this, it is very complicated, and within country it is very complicated. So yesterday we planned to release the trailer of Bhashaili, which we did not release it yet. But once we have discussed it again and we have looked at the situation, this whole escalation between Pakistan, India, and war, and we decided to not release it again. So it's been a year. We are just deciding. So we are not able to release the trailer. Unfortunately, we don't have. There is no, documentary market here, and unfortunately, we don't have any distribution, strategy or partners here in Pakistan. But what we are doing and what are we aiming at the moment, to share some like reels or stories, at least to bring it out to the public. And we are showing it like screenings. We have screening at LUMS, Articulate Studio. Day before yesterday, we had a screening at Alliance. So we are trying to have as much screenings, and specifically with universities as well. And in addition to that, later on, we are planning to release maybe some shorter version or some toned down version on YouTube, which I am not sure yet. It really depends on Tahera and the community.
I realize now we're quite over the time, and I think we should wrap up now. Thank you. Should we take? Do we have time? Should we talk afterwards?
No, 1 minute question.
Okay, 1 minute, and then we must wrap up because we're half an hour over time.
आपने 30 लाख स्टेटलेस बंगालीज पाकिस्तानी बेंगालीज पर डॉक्यूमेंट्री बनाई है. इसी तरह बांग्लादेश में 3 लाख स्टेटलेस पाकिस्तानी बिहारीज आर देयर. क्या उन पर कोई डॉक्यूमेंट्री बनाने का इरादा है? एक बात. दूसरी बात कि यूट्यूब पर स्लॉटर हाउस रिलीज हुई है, तो आप भी इसको यूट्यूब पर रिलीज करें.
थैंक यू. बांग्लादेश में 2011 में सुप्रीम कोर्ट का ऑर्डर आया था जिससे जो बिहारी पॉपुलेशन वहाँ थी, they were given the right to citizenship. The order, there is just no. I work with people there to date. There is an order. There is a Supreme Court order.
I think
there is an issue of implementation and challenges in the process, but the order does exist.
10-12 लोगों ने अप्लाई किया था, वो भी बंगाली से खड़ा किया था. उनको सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने दिया, तो सिर्फ वही 10-12 लोग जिन्होंने अप्लाई किया था उनको मिला, और किसी को सिटीजनशिप नहीं मिला. नो.
चलेंगे, we'll take this outside after the. We'll take this outside.
तो ऐसा कौन सा मुल्क है? मुझे ये बताइए, ऐसा कौन सा मुल्क है जहाँ सिटीजनशिप देते हैं और वो कैंपों में अपने घरों में क्यों नहीं जाते वो?
There is a lot of injustice in the world.
No, there's injustice for sure, but we're talking about.
Yeah.
It is wrong. Totally wrong.
Chale, okay, I'll agree with you.
But I think we need to wrap up now. Thank you so much for coming to see our film. We're so happy
Thank
to
you.
have
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. And hope to see you again soon.